Hello everybody, welcome back. My name is Stefan, and today I'll be covering the Ascended Tall Empire. Compared with the other tall builds that I have proposed, links by the way are in the description, this build is probably one of the most powerful of the bunch. This one is pretty reliable in the early game, and in the late game, this has a lot more potential. That is because unlike those two builds, your population will become a lot more efficient, and in fact, you'll have a lot more population to deal with. The cornerstone of this build is the insane pop growth that you can attain. This build achieves the highest possible pop growth rate in the game, and that comes from a combination of a synthetically ascended empire growing robots extremely rapidly, and the fact that you still have organic species breeding and also immigrating to your worlds. The best thing about these organics is they don't actually clutter your species pool, and instead just transform into the perfect machine as soon as they arrive on the planet after a short process of assimilation. This way they become perfect and unyielding machines. Machines that can be used to their full potential on your worlds, with very nice upkeep requirements. As robots, they only require energy and consumer goods to sustain themselves, which means that it's very easy to sustain multiple ecomonopoli within your empire, because the only resource that you'll have to obtain that cannot be produced on the ecomonopoli themselves are minerals. And minerals are obtained with a variety of means throughout this build, namely trade, branch offices, and designated worlds. With all those pops very happily working away, you'll be able to focus your empire on external expansion and subjugation of other empires in the galaxy. You can get absurd amounts of energy credit and alloy production with this build, and with that you'll be able to sustain a large, very technologically advanced fleet that can absolutely sweep everything in sight. That is what awaits you in the early to mid game. The biggest challenge is of course getting there, and that I will explain very thoroughly. Let's begin with the strategy, shall we? Let's start with the basics, the empire setup. As a budding early mega corporation, we have to focus on a couple things. One is early colonization. The sooner you can get your first colonies, the better. This applies to pretty much any empire, but with a mega corporation, you can get private prospectors and get very cheap private colony ships to go do your bidding. Another very important aspect is going to be trade value. We're going to be taking free traders, thrifty, and fanatic xenophile in order to increase trade value by a whopping 55%. This makes a lot of jobs that you have as a mega corporation extremely powerful, and you'll be able to get a lot of energy credits and potentially consumer goods from having this much trade value. You can get consumer goods from trade, of course, by enabling it as a policy. The third focus, of course, is going to be in pop growth. We select rapid breeders to increase our pop growth ever so slightly, and we also choose materialist. Materialist is here to increase the chances of robots appearing and to increase our research speeds. That way we get robots even faster than normal empires, and we can focus on obtaining a lot of pop growth from robots. The third method of boosting your pop growth ever further is with fanatic xenophile. The more beneficial migration packs that you can sustain, the better. You can potentially get a lot of pop growth from xenopops, and since those xenopops will be converted to robots anyway, this does not matter in the long run. A side note about fanatic xenophile is that it actually gives you minus 50% to diplomatic influence cost. There's a tradition in the diplomacy tree that also gives you minus 50% to diplomatic influence, and so in the end, you can get any interaction going with any other empire for absolutely free. Which is quite amazing as a mega corporation because you should be sending all those commercial packs and building your outposts absolutely everywhere. So now that we know what species we're playing with, I can now delve into the strategies for surviving and thriving in the early and mid game. The first thing that you're going to want to do is find all the habitable worlds near you, no matter the habitability, and colonize all of them. While this may tank your economy initially, this does provide a lot of long-term benefits, because in the end, the planet will easily be outproducing whatever extra you spend to upkeep the pops. Because of course, the only penalties for low habitability are increased pop upkeep and increased amenities. In practice, both of these are really not a problem, and so going for an early colony rush, no matter the colony, is a priority in the early game. Another priority is going to be to build up your science industry as fast as possible and as much as possible while also able to sustain it. Research overall provides very important bonuses to your empire throughout the game, and so focusing on that is going to mean extra bonuses for everything. At this point, you will also want to focus on internally developing your economy, and so focusing on producing a bigger fleet is pretty much a waste, because we are going to be playing through diplomacy, not war, at least at this point in the game. Once you discover your first Xeno Empire, you'll want to create a commercial pact, a non-aggression pact, and a research pact with them. That way you can get trust to very high levels very quickly, and if you adapt the first iterations of the diplomacy tree, all these interactions will be completely free. You'll want to establish a branch office on their capital world, or any planet with more than 25 pops, which can significantly boost your resource production and at this point in the game, we'll want to go for private research enterprises to boost our research production ever further. Eventually, you will also want to change your trade policy over to consumer benefits, and your economic policy over to civilian economy. Alloys are not going to be a big priority in the early to mid game, and ultimately, you shouldn't have too many alloy buildings on your worlds, because ultimately, those are slots that can be used for research. Later on, when you take the desired territory and have some influence to spare, you'll want a gun for Land of Opportunity and some migration packs with other empires. This will attract more Xenos to your empire, boosting your pop growth ever further. Little do those Xenos know that eventually, they're going to be encased with cold, hard steel. If an empire that you met does not like you too much, you can simply offer them up a nice trade deal and buy them off. This way, you can increase their opinion of you by up to plus 100, which is absolutely massive, and combined with your Xenophile diplomacy will almost guarantee that all of them will see you as a friend rather than an enemy. And that is exactly how you want them to see you. As you grow your empire ever further and get more and more planets with more and more pops, empire size will start to become an issue. The thing about empire size is that the penalties that it imposes on your empire do not actually outweigh the benefits of getting more and more planets. Ultimately, if going over admin cap results in an empire that produces twice as much while only experiencing 33% penalties, it's a very worthwhile endeavor. Later on, we're going to be able to unlock a technology in the society tree that actually increases our admin cap by 15 every time it's researched. It is intended as an endgame repeatable, however with this strategy, you should be able to obtain it by around year 2300. The mid-game is where all the interesting stuff actually begins, with synthetic evolution. Your species, which at this point will be pretty diverse, will be melded with the machine, and after that, Unity will follow. At this point, you will want to triple check that your artificial intelligence has citizen rights, because if it doesn't, this will mess up your empire very badly. If AI doesn't have rights when you ascend, all your ruler jobs will be completely unoccupied, because formerly robots were unable to take those jobs, and now they will not be able to. The option to change the policy will be completely gone, and you will have to import a species into your empire to serve as rulers. And of course, you really don't want to do that. You want the incoming species to be assimilated with your empire rather than just growing on its own. Also, I haven't mentioned this yet, but the build also requires 3 perks to be selected as Ascension perks. The Flesh is Weak as the second one, Ecology Project as the third one, and Synthetic Evolution as the fourth one. You have 5 of them to mess around with. This build only requires 3 of them. At some point in the mid-game, you will want to start building up your planets with city districts in order to prepare them for the Ecology Project. The Ecology Project is going to be what transforms your planet into a Ecumenopolis, and unless you start pre-building your planet, this process will take decades. Also at this point, I'd like to take a moment to explain what the hell is going on with this empire, and why I have all these weird icons that are clearly not part of the base game. In this specific run, I was playing with the Gillies Planet Modifiers mod, a very good mod indeed, I'll leave a link in the description, and that is exactly what is providing all these different modifiers on my planets. The splitting of my empire was an experiment and not something you should attempt, because once you create a vassal with a mega corporation, it actually becomes a subsidiary, and you cannot integrate them into your empire later, so please don't try this at home. As an off-branch of my mega corporation, this empire's worlds do not support any corporate buildings because they are themselves a mega corporation, and in some situations cause a bit of competition. But anyways, let's get back into the build and jump forward a couple decades. This is where the true fun begins. Once you get ample alloy production set in one of your Ecumenopolis, you're ready to go to war. The wars for subjugation will begin, and you'll fight to make the galaxy your subsidiary. After researching cool advanced tech throughout the whole game, you should be able to release your advanced fleets on the galaxy. While the plebeians that are attacking us have mere 47k fleets, we have nearly 100k in each of ours, and the fight really ain't fair. It's not supposed to be fair. After developing your economy throughout the whole game, and adapting massive pop growth on your worlds, it becomes pretty damn hard to compete with you. Because of everyone's love and adoration, pretty much everyone's borders should be open to you, and you should be able to impose your will on everyone. As far as this build goes, that is pretty much it for the basics. I'll probably end up doing this build as a let's play, and so I'll cover a lot of the specifics in there. So if you don't want to miss that, please consider subscribing. If you enjoyed what you saw, please leave a like. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments. I have a Discord if y'all want to chat about Stellaris, and a Patreon if y'all want to donate. But anyways, thanks for watching everyone, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.